a shake-up of sentencing laws announced this morning could see teenagers who commit murder sent to prison for life with no chance of parole.
Yes, despite Boris Johnson backing the new laws, Chris Daw, who is a leading criminal defence barrister and the author of a book, Justice on Trial, says harsh sentences achieve precisely the opposite of what's intended. He believes we should shut down prisons altogether, take kids out of the justice system. Alongside him, virtually, is barrister and former Conservative MP Jerry Hayes, who says that idea is simply insane. Well, Chris Daw, very good morning to you. A lot of people will agree with Jerry Hayes and think it is insane. And there is already a lot of support on the iPad from people, from viewers this morning, saying harsher sentences for younger prisoners actually are welcome. Why do you think they don't work?
Because they don't work. It's as simple as that. We have a massively overcrowded criminal justice system. We've been using prison more and more and more. So what people don't realise when they have these views and they say we want more of this is that we've already got it. Sentences have doubled in the course of my career. Prison numbers have doubled in the course of my career over 25 years in the criminal justice system. And people are saying we've got crime on the streets, we've got stabbings, we've got knife crime, we've got gun violence. And so we're just killing the patient with a medicine that doesn't work. The more prison you use, the worse crime gets. And that's an absolute cast iron fact.
Jerry Hayes, one of the proposals is that whole life orders will be handed down for those who commit murder, so that the limit is currently 21 years old. That will be brought down to 18 years old. Do you think that banging people up for life, and life meaning life, for teenagers is the kind of justice system we want? And I'm sure that people who want harsher punishments will support that. But we've been in the States where whole life orders are given to teenagers who commit murder, and I'm not sure they act as a deterrent.
No, I agree. I think it's a terrible idea. It is a typical Boris Johnson piece of deception. We have a new tough on sentencing white paper which comes out on a yearly basis. Most of the law is there anyway. It's complete and utter nonsense. No, I do not think teenagers should be given whole life sentences for murder unless there are very, very exceptional circumstances. I disagree with Chris, who's a respected member of the bar and good news, that we shouldn't. What he wants to do is to raise criminality amongst children to 18. At the moment it's 10. But the judiciary bend over backwards, and rightly so, to try and stop young people going to prison, to give them another chance. Throw away the key. It's not giving them another chance at all. And it's a very, very bad move indeed. But what does concern me at the moment, and this is where Chris and I should be at one, is we have got to fight the government for dismantling the criminal justice system. They want to get rid of jury trials. You're languishing in prison for a year before you reach trial. And it's all the COVID excuse, which is nonsense.
OK, well, let's bring in Chris. Can we reach a point of agreement on that, Chris Daw?
Yeah, the criminal justice system has never been in a worse state. Jerry's absolutely right. We have 500,000 cases of backlog in the criminal justice system. And the fact of the matter is, one of the reasons for that is because we have thousands and thousands of children as young as 10 years old going through the criminal courts and being treated as adults. It's insanity.
Chris, there is a problem.
OK, drive a car.
Yeah, there is a problem at the moment, isn't there? Particularly with gangs, as an example, knife crime. Now, there will be people who say, well, if you don't treat the youngsters who are involved in gangs and knife crime as criminals, you are sending a message that it is OK to be criminal up to the age of 18.
No, you're not. You're sending a message that they're not criminals. So if you call someone a criminal at the age of 10, 11 or 12, they will be a criminal for life. They'll spend their entire life in prison, in and out of custodial environments. I mean, when you look at the United States, and you're right about this, Susanna, in the United States, they have life without parole for teenagers already. And it's no deterrent. I spoke to judges in America, and I talk about it in my book. I spoke to judges in America who said it's a badge of honor to get life without parole on the streets as a gang member. And it would be here. Children are not afraid of criminal courts. They don't think they're going to be caught. They don't think they're going to be sentenced. So it's a completely
mistake.
If we don't have prisons, Chris, if we don't have prisons, what do we do? If we don't have prisons, what do we do?
what we do is 69% of those in prison are non-violent. They're not a danger to the public. They've committed no act of sexual or other physical violence. They don't need to be incarcerated behind a wall with barbed wires, etc. So most of them can be sentenced and kept in the community. For the hardcore violent offender who are likely to rape or murder or harm people on the streets, they need to be in a secure environment that prepares them for the most important day of their sentence, which is the day they get out. Because at the moment, when people come out of prison, they are infinitely more likely to commit another crime than the day they went in.
You see, what's interesting, Chris, about listening to you, because I read the book, it's a very, very interesting book. What I found interesting was that you're not the conventional kind of woolly liberal, Guardian reader popping up saying we've got to be soft on people. You don't sound like that at all. How many, you've been doing criminal barrister work for 25 years involving some very serious cases. How many people in your world on the legal side do you think share your view?
I think a lot of people, Jerry's shown this at the beginning, a lot of people recognise that just increasing sentences, which we've been doing for decades, just makes the problem worse. Like anybody who has hands-on experience of criminal justice knows that the drift towards the American system of mass incarceration with 2.5 million people in prison in America, just think about the sheer number of that. And does anybody think that America is safer on the streets?
Well, Jerry, you see, let me bring Jerry in. I do lots of crime docs in America, and I interviewed lots of killers. And what's very interesting to me is it's not the serial killer who's killed 5 people and deserves all that he gets. I've interviewed some young women who were 21 when they were a mile away from when their boyfriend shot somebody, but were dealt as an accomplice in Florida under the kind of bank robber rule where the getaway driver gets the same sentence. And they get life without parole, age 21. And as Chris says, that's no deterrent because it carries on all day, every day in America. Violent crime increases all the time. So this kind of incredibly draconian sentencing, which we see even in situations where the person hasn't perpetrated the crime. We don't want to get to that position here, do we?
Of course we don't. But you've got a government telling people to obey the law when they disobey the law themselves. Surely they see the terrible irony of this. We mustn't move towards an American system. Everyone has the right to atonement at some stage. That's why parole must always be the answer. And to throw the key away, and whole life sentences, that's what you throw the key away with, there's no possibility of parole, are very, very rare. And they should be rare. But of course, Boris Johnson, you can't trust a word he says. Heaven knows what he and Priti Patel and the rest of the gang will try and do to our justice system. And I tell you, Piers, they will get rid of the jury system under the cover of COVID. That will be the next big thing.
All right.
Sorry, no, Chris, can I just put the point? That, of course, rehabilitation is a very important part of our justice system, and preventing further crime is a very important part of our justice system. But for victims of crime, punishment is the most important part of our justice system. And if you suggest that these criminals shouldn't be punished by losing their freedom, that's a real affront to people who have suffered.
Well, I've sat down with mothers who have lost their sons to knife crime. I made a documentary for the BBC earlier this year, and I sat in the living room of a family who'd lost their son to knife crime. And do you know what? You're right when I think it was Piers that said, I'm not a woolly liberal. I don't want to have to see people get that knock on the door. That's that from the police telling them their son is in hospital or their son's already died from being stabbed. And the reason why those knocks on the door are so frequent is because our criminal justice system fails so badly. So my heart is with the victims. My everything, every part of the book is designed to say these are ways in which we can have fewer victims of crime and fewer mothers who have to have that awful experience of losing a child or a young son who has been stabbed in a knife crime situation, because gang violence is out of control. But it's not out of control because we use prison not enough or too little. It's because we're already using the criminal justice system too much. And we need to completely and radically change the way we look at the entire system so that there are fewer victims of crime and there is more safety on our streets. And that's what I'm arguing for. Use the evidence of what works and apply it in our country, and we will have a safer and happier country to live in.
Jerry Hayes, this doesn't seem to be the way that policy is going, though. Oh,
the way policy is going, I find, is very, very depressing. This government doesn't give a damn. about the criminal justice system. I'm sorry to keep banging on about it, but people just don't realise what is going on. They don't realise.
The government would say it's on the side of the victims.
They wouldn't say it on this programme because they haven't the courage to come and answer questions. Now, if you'd had Boris Johnson on this programme, you might like to ask him about his white paper, where most of the powers are in law and were put there by Tony Blair.
That would be a good question. Jerry Hayes, thank you very much. Chris Daw, QC, Justice on Trial, Radical Solutions for a System at Breaking Point. There's no doubt you can't argue with a system at breaking point. So if we all take that as the basic point of agreement, that this system is broken, how we fix it is a very important debate. And this book, I think, raises some very eye-opening questions. Thank you both very much indeed.